Hi everyone. Wasn't really thinking that we would have a new episode of Vami ready to go this quickly. I actually could have done it the day after I posted episode 2, but now I'm doing it, so it's okay. This comment thread came from my past Vami episode 2. So welcome to Vami episode 3, and Vami stands for Vegans Are Mentally Ill. So, we had this interaction, and I have since deleted this comment, so you guys cannot go back and look for it, so don't even try. Comment from, I don't know what to call her, a fan of mine. I think she's a fan of mine. I assume so. But she commented on that video, Vami episode 2, and she said, I'm pretty sure they're just against breeding animals to keep in captivity in general. Needing to shear sheep is irrelevant when you don't own any more sheep. She also used the incorrect form of any more. She meant to say any space M-O-R-E. Any more, one word is used to convey time, okay? Or if something is not there anymore, okay? We'll get into BAARACK not being able to write in a little bit. But anyway, I didn't understand what she was fucking saying in the second one. I said, what are you trying to say in the second sentence? Shearing sheep is relevant because they are livestock animals. And then she said, I'm saying I don't think they're against shearing sheep. I think they're against breeding and owning sheep in general. Okay, problem. This is a problem. People being against owning sheep, period, is a problem. And BAARACK don't fucking understand how vital a lot of people's livelihoods are. They don't understand how intrinsic healthy sheep are to a lot of people's livelihoods. Okay? They live in this total and complete fantasy world where they literally wish that they could just wave a magical wand and then have no animal suffering ever again in the world. And, like, that's just such childish thinking, and I don't appreciate it, and it's also not reality-based. So, anyway, let's move on. Okay. She said, I said, that's really dumb. There are about 1 billion domesticated sheep in the world. Being against breeding sheep means nothing. I actually had to look that up because I didn't, in fact, know how many domesticated sheep there were on the planet. And then because this lovely lady commented and inspired episode 3 of Vegans Are Mentally Ill, I now know that there are, in fact, about 1 billion sheep, 1 billion domesticated sheep on the planet. Okay, and that's pretty significant because don't we have 7 billion people? So that's 1/7 our population is the population of domesticated sheep. All right, and that number just doesn't go away because you want it to. That number just doesn't decrease because you want it to. All right, that is a really, really significant amount of sheep that aren't going anywhere. Okay? So I said, that's really dumb. There are about 1 billion domesticated sheep in the world. Being against breeding sheep means nothing. And then she said, how does wanting less sheep to be bred into captivity mean nothing? And then Polar Nights, sorry, I don't know if you are okay with me having you put your username on here, but you said, I don't see how breeding sheep for captivity is even an issue, to be honest. We need meat to survive. Sheep provide a valuable resource that keeps us warm. As long as these animals are well taken care of and not being tortured, the whole argument to me is not a non-issue. And she's right. And then I responded, it's fewer. If you can count it, it's fewer, not less. This is something that people do a lot that bothers me. Okay. I don't know why I know these things. I mean, my parents are educated, ? But plenty of people's parents are educated and they don't know these basic things like anymore and the difference between using fewer and less. And this actually does concern me in all seriousness because this is a pretty basic thing in English, and especially if you were raised in the United States with English being the one and only language you learn in school. This is something you should know. And the fact that so many vegans tend to misspell things and they tend to use incorrect terms and incorrect words for a lot of things kind of tells you a lot about where they're at mentally. And it might explain a little bit why, you know, their thinking is so outlandish. Anyway, I said it's fewer, not less. If you can count it, it's fewer, not less. Domesticated sheep are completely dependent upon humans because we bred them for captivity. We do not have a time machine to change that. Wanting fewer sheep born into captivity means nothing because all domesticated sheep need to be domesticated and cared for by humans. Get over it. We helped create these animals, and now it's our duty to care for them. Plus, responsible sheep owners, which is most sheep owners on the planet, already do try to keep their sheep healthy and maintain whatever numbers, pregnancies that are appropriate for their sheep. And then, of course, she said, I can't count that high. Anyway, if we stopped breeding sheep, then eventually we wouldn't have any that we would have to keep and care for. Okay, I have to admit, she has a point, but not about sheep. All right? We need sheep very fucking clearly. We need them physically. And a lot of farmers need them physically. And we also need wool. All right? You can also use sheep milk. You can make any kind of dairy product from sheep milk. And all the wool that's created. Let me just tell you about wool for a moment, okay? So you have to have the sheep, right, to create the wool. And then you have to have someone who cares for the sheep, so you need the farmer, obviously. And then you have to have someone who shears the sheep, okay? And then what you do is you take the wool from the shorn sheep and you take it to a wool processing plant, all right, where it's then turned into various wool products. You know, you can actually use wool to insulate houses. I think that's pretty cool. That's a newer technique people are using, and it's good because it's helpful, right? It's environmentally friendly to use sheep's wool, and it's very useful. And we need to be thinking of more things, more ways to help ourselves that are, you know, conducive to the earth. And using sheep's wool to insulate houses is one way to do that. Anyway, after that, you need to, so you have the processing area that creates, that first you have to like wash the wool, and then you have to process the wool and make it into yarn or roving. I don't know if y'all know what roving is because you're not like extreme knitters like me, but roving is this loose wool. It's been processed and cleaned and everything, but it's not been woven into yarn. And if you have a spinning wheel, you can actually go to a yarn store. It's got to be a higher end yarn store because lower end yarn stores don't have roving. Buy yourself some roving and spin it into yarn yourself. Okay? Like that creates and then the person, you know, the people working at the yarn stores are also employees. So this is like hundreds of thousands of jobs, right? That shearing sheep creates, that caring for sheep creates, that having a herd of sheep provides. All right? We can't just say, we don't want there to be any more domesticated sheep, because that's fucking pussy, for lack of a better term. But the point she has here is that there are certain dog breeds that we shouldn't be breeding anymore. Okay? There are certain dog breeds that we need to be changing up the genetic composition of. For example, unpopular opinion, y'all are going to cry, I do not think we should be breeding French bulldogs and corgis the way we are now, currently. Because both of those dogs cannot reproduce naturally anymore. We have inbred them so severely that a male corgi cannot mount a female corgi and effectively impregnate her. Those dogs are bred by IVF because they're that fucking inbred. I think we should tweak the genetics, okay? The stupid kennel associations, you know, boohoo and cry about this, but I think that we should throw in some other types of dogs into those breeds if we absolutely have to keep them, just so that they can reproduce naturally and so that they're healthier, okay? French bulldogs are what's called, I feel like I always use the wrong word, but I'm pretty sure this is the word. They're brachycephalic, which means that their breathing, their nose is so shallow, their nasal cavities are so shallow and so small, it is really difficult for them to breathe, especially if they're running around playing and it's a hot day, okay? And it can actually be really serious, All right. And this is true of Persian cats and Himalayan cats as well. Those squish-faced ones have trouble breathing. And unfortunately, a lot of them just drop dead because they can't breathe properly. And we have done that as human beings, and that is our fault. And we should stop. But that's not even what she's talking about. Anyway, if we stop breeding sheep, then eventually we wouldn't have any that we would have to keep and care for. I said, seems like you're having trouble with math in general. Is it really reasonable to try to stop breeding a domesticated animal of which there are about 1 billion on the planet? No, it isn't. Farmers rely on sheep for their livelihoods, and so do craftspeople and all people with farming jobs. You should be embarrassed you need this explained to you. I am really savage, okay? I like being savage, everyone, and like someone on a vegan deterioration, I'll link that channel in the description. Someone on a vegan deterioration video commented like, seems like you're being a bully. Y'all, am I a bully because I say bad shit about vegans? Like, if that makes me a bully, like, call me a bully, fam. But anyway, okay, I do not know what this woman was on. But anyway, she said, some people just live according to their own personal values. If they believe no animal should be domesticated, bred, and owned, then they don't support any animal being bred and owned. Even if collectively it only results in one fewer sheep being bred, I think the point is simply that they are living according to their values and being the change they want to see. Just because you don't believe you can make a difference doesn't mean you should just give up. I don't really know what she was getting at here. I think she was getting at the fact that she wants to decrease the amount of sheep bred. She wants to decrease the amount of sheep in captivity, which is, like I said, pretty implausible. But she's just really not making a lot of sense. And most vegans, when they try to make points, don't make a lot of sense because there's not a lot of sense to what they're thinking. Anyway, then Terry said, sheep provide wool, dairy, and meat, and so many other things. They also help keep the soil healthy by their grazing. They're such a vital resource to humanity. It would be terrible if we didn't have them. And she's right, it would. We need sheep, and sheep need us. We're a team, okay? I said, sheep are meant to be domesticated and cared for by humans. You are being ridiculous. And she is. Okay. And then she said, sheep were meant to be domesticated? Who decided that? And I don't know that I responded. I did respond. I said, humans did over 10,500 years ago, toots. Your eating disordered, nutrient-deprived brain is showing. I was kind of excited because I've never actually called anyone toots before this specific encounter. So that was kind of exciting for me. But really, and I had to look it up too because I didn't know when exactly, but humans did in fact domesticate sheep about 10,500 years ago. We domesticated dogs, though I think there's a pretty solid argument that dogs domesticated themselves about 30,000 years ago. We domesticated cats about 10,000 years ago, and we domesticated horses about 6,000 years ago, which explains why horses are kind of a problem, because that was much more recent than domesticating sheep, cats, or dogs. But anyway, we did that. Humanity domesticated sheep 10,500 years ago, okay? So we can't just be like, oh shit, let's make them not domesticated anymore. Y'all can search this sheep right now on YouTube. I think this happened, I don't know where this happened, but his name is BAARACK, BAARACK. And he's not the only sheep that this has happened to. So he went rogue, went off by himself, was lost in the woods for literal years, was never shorn in that entire time. And because when your wool is so long and it gets dirty and stuff and it gets all, twisted and everything, it became like a shield for him. Like, so predators couldn't mess with him, right? because he had this giant thing of wool all over him. But when he was found, he was relieved. Okay? Because sheep are dependent upon humans. They are a domesticated animal, like cats and dogs and other pets, but I'm not going to get into that. They need our help. They need our care. Like I said, we're a team, okay? And how do you best work on a team? When you're properly caring for each other. So BAARACK got a nice shave, and he was a brand new sheep, and he was reintegrated into whatever sheep herd was there. And he went on to live, I think he's still with us. He went on to live a normal sheep life. Okay. Let's talk about horses for a minute. There are wild horses in the U.S. There are wild herds of horses in the U.S., and there have been for a very long time. And they're actually really, truly a problem at this rate. Okay. Horses are a problem, in my opinion, in general, but I don't think we're going to get into all of that this video. But these horses, these wild horses are a problem because they do everything that normal horses do, but they're wild. They graze, they drink water, they need to eat, they need to do all these things. And there's actually, people are actually getting paid to give horses birth control. It's like you shoot them with a bow and arrow, basically, but it's just a birth control, like, jab for them. And it doesn't, I mean, it hurts them in the moment, but it doesn't, like, hurt them ongoing. And, like, they literally need to be given this birth control because there are too many horses. There are too many horses wreaking havoc all over our land, okay? And it's also a health risk for the horse, right? It's a health risk for the horse to be getting pregnant every fucking year or over and over and over again, right? That can be serious, all right? And horses are a really great example of, like, how animals have feelings. Like, y'all can feel free to look up videos on the YouTube, but there are tons of videos of horses exhibiting their feelings, of horses being depressed, of all these different things, okay? And yes, we did domesticate horses, but some horses aren't domesticated right now. And that's a problem for us, and it's a problem for them. I was talking to my friend in Florida because she really does a lot of work with cats, with stray cats, with feral cats. And she does a lot of TNR, which is trap, neuter, release, because there are a lot of feral cats in the U.S., okay? And they are feral, all right? These are, descendants of domesticated cats, but they're not going to be able to be domesticated, a lot of them. Sometimes you can catch feral cats and they can get accustomed to humans and they can be a pet, but a lot of the time you cannot. And in that case, the most humane thing to do for them is to trap them, get them to the vet, spay or neuter them so that they can't, either impregnate another cat or continue becoming pregnant, because that'll create more cats, right? That'll create more feral cats, and it's also, again, a risk to the female cats that are being impregnated and having kittens in freaking hurricanes and shit, okay? That's not good for us, all right? I guess I can talk about this now. Fuck.